All right, hi, my name is Jaslyn, and I'll be doing my presentation right now on the Republican Party. So, what is the Republican Party? Well, it's one of the two major political parties here in the US currently in power, and another name for it has been the Great Old Party, and the elephant has been the official logo for the Republican Party for a while. And as you can see on the left, there's a picture of it right there. So the Republican Party was actually born out of anti-slavery sentiment. So initially, it was simply a coalition of members from multiple parties, members that were against slavery and wanted and felt that a new political party will allow them to really speak against it and um, work towards change against it. So some of these members from the multiple parties include from the Whigs, Know Nothings, Free Soil, and Northern Democrats that were just against slavery. So the immediate reaction was from actually the Kansas-Nebraska Act that was basically it threatened those against slavery in that it was going to allow for the extension of slavery into new states. And so out of fear of that and anger of that, you saw more members of these other parties coming together to form this coalition against slavery. And it wasn't until Abraham Lincoln actually became president that you saw change really starting to be made and the Civil War broke out. And he was the first Republican president that came into power. So then you have the era of the Civil War and Reconstruction, and the Republican Party had a stronger core at the time. Well, they were developing a stronger core just because at the time they had control over most elective offices in the northern states during the war that were against slavery. However, you did have factions beginning to form within the Republican Party, those that were more moderate and those that were more radical, and conflict between them, especially during the Civil War and what direction they wanted to take the war. Some of the more radical ones wanted complete racial equality, while others that were more moderate simply wanted an end to slavery. And you also saw the rise of industrial values within the Republican Party as the Industrial Revolution occurred. And so those became increasingly emphasized. So, that's the wrong heading, but you see basically these three different developments that begin to occur. So first you have the progressive era that was soon after the Industrial Revolution, where you see leaders like Theodore Roosevelt begin to use federal power to halt dominating monopolies and trusts that were beginning to form from the Industrial Revolution. And then you have the era of the New Deal, and that brought about a large variety of reactions from different parties. And from within the Republican Party, you see even more factions beginning to form and more conflicting opinions with more liberal Republicans being accepting of the New Deal and just wanting to trim a couple things, while moderate Republicans were still also accepting, but maybe more things trimmed. However, you see also conservatives within the Republican Party that were unaccepting completely of the New Deal and wanted it replaced and new changes to be implemented. And so from then on, you just see that rise of conservatism actually away from progressives and liberals and still moderates, but progress increasingly more conservatives, especially after World War II. People wanted to adjust back to regular life. And so you see this wanting to return to the traditional values of the US, especially with communism and the Cold War that was beginning. You see this anti-communist sentiment that also causes the fear against total control over the government. So you see opposition to that within the people and a return to wanting traditional values of the US, like maintaining the rights and the freedoms of the people. They want to see that passed down. So you see that increasing I guess gravitation towards conservatism. And that need for a return or that want for the return to the real America, the past America prior to the world wars and communism being introduced, of more fear against the radical ideas of communism and things like that. And so how does this align with my idea of the American dream? Well, I believe that for the American dream to persist in the US, the past can't be forgotten. We need to acknowledge it and see its mistakes, what was great about it, and use that to continue forward. As of now, you have a lot of surveys that are showing the increasing civil ignorance that's happening in society. Like specifically from the Annenberg Policy Center, you have a survey that showed that nearly half of the people that took the survey, well, less than half of the people that took the survey could name the three branches of government, and 25% of them couldn't name any, and 25% of them couldn't name any of the freedoms that they were granted under the First Amendment. And it's alarming that so many people aren't aware of their own government. And I think really if we want to continue to create a government that can allow for this American dream to still be there for the people in the future, we need to make sure that people know about their own history and their own government and who we are and what our past was. And so I think for the Republican Party that now currently favors conservatism and um, yeah, the ideology of conservatism that values the passing on of the past and acknowledging it at least in traditional values. I think there's a lot to gain from that and continue to create a brighter future. And so, yeah, thank you. This has been my presentation.